Hi, everyone. Lisa Haven here, and I really want you to hear me out in today's broadcast because right now there is a massive coordinated stealth movement being initiated by global organizations and countries and elitists all over the globe. Well, they're all kind of joining in together to go after our food supply. This is no joke because this is a coordinated effort to basically, in my opinion, what this effort is going to do is it is going to cause a massive food crisis unlike we have ever seen before. And they're all doing it in the name of saving the planet via the New Green Deal, Agenda 2030, the Great Reset, whatever name or label they want to put on it. The end result to this thing is a massive, massive food crisis. And by the way, he who controls the food controls everything. If we've got a growing population and there's more and more people and more mouths to feed, and you've got governments coordinating all over the globe saying, hey, we're going to confiscate your land, we're going to keep that, and we're going to control what you can and can't use on your farmland, and then, hey, it's all ours, we control it, come beg us for the food. This is a nightmare unlike we have ever seen. And talk about biblical stuff playing out. This is the Bible playing out in real time, but this is a very real thing. And I'm going to call this a death date because when all the global governments finally initiate their fertilizer bans or all their nitrogen bans or whatever kind of stipulation they want to put on these farmers, then that literally is signing a global death warrant of how are we going to get our food and who gets the food, right? Who gets the food? And I'm going to bring back up the Kissinger report, which I think is very critical for the time in which we live. But the bottom line is we have governments all over the world seizing up land from farmers in the name of saving the planet. Let's start first with what's going on in the Netherlands. Take a look at this article. This is on foxnews.com. Netherlands reportedly set to forcibly close 3,000 farms to comply with the EU mandate. Yep. Let's just start closing down farms in the name of saving the planet. The article goes on to state this. The Dutch government is planning to purchase and then close down 3,000 farms in an effort to comply with EU environmental mandates to slash emissions, according to reports. It goes on, farmers in the Netherlands will be offered well over the worth of their farm in an effort to take up the offer voluntarily, the Telegraph reported. The country's attempting to reduce its nitrogen pollution and will make the purchases if not enough farmers accept the buyout. And they're not going to, by the way. Why? Why aren't these farmers going to accept these buyouts? Because just if you buy the land and give them well over what it's worth or whatever they're trying to say, and that's their claim, right? Well, how are they going to survive in the future if they don't have farms and anything to work with? And on top of that, how are we, specifically this is now in the Netherlands, but how are the Netherlands people going to get enough food with all the closures of these farms? And by the way, something like that happened in Sri Lanka and it completely turned into a nightmare. But the article goes on to state this is that same article. Some farmers have voiced opposition. Of course, thousands of them jammed up traffic for 700 miles in a protest. That was the Dutch protest that I talked about. Many feel their livelihoods are at stake and the industry is being unfairly targeted, while other sectors like aviation are not. It goes on, the Netherlands is the world's second largest farm exporter. According to Investopia, top Dutch farm-based exporters include flowers, dairy products, eggs, meat, and vegetables. So if we've got the second largest farm exporter and they're cutting back, this is some real issues. You really want to know what's going on, get to restrictiverepublic.com. I can't stress this enough. We're very YouTube and I don't know how long we're all going to be on these platforms, especially when we talk about real things. They're not conspiracy theories like the Great Reset, like what I'm going to show you at the end of this report, like I've been showing you on Restrictive Republic. And right now, by the way, you get a 14-day free trial. Get on there. You don't like it, cancel it. Check it out. But I've got exclusive content that's going to drop your jaw to the floor. And more specifically, right now, you can get it for $5 per month. Use the coupon code Trump. That's for your first year and take advantage of that special offer. But that is really the way that you can get to know what's going on and really support what we do. But that said, if they're closing down farms in the Netherlands and they're being forced to be controlled by the government, that means that the government has way more control over the food supply. And if they're able to do it to 3,000 farmers, you're going to add more and more and more farmers to that. By the way, something similar happened over in Sri Lanka, and they got a real pat on the back and good score by the big green agenda movement, right? By the World Economic Forum, for all the good green movements that they did. Well, it completely destroyed the country. We do not have the ability to go green right now, or the technology is not sufficient to have humanity survive. Bring us something more reliable, right? Here's Reason.com regarding Sri Lanka. When Sri Lanka banned synthetic fertilizers, the country imploded. It literally imploded. People were eating animals. There was talks of that because they didn't have enough food. People made a run on the government. People made a run on stores and grocery stores, and all of that. Crime broke out at a massive level because the people were starving. That's what happened in Sri Lanka. It completely decimated their farming and crop industry. And you know what? It's not the only place it happened. In fact, right now, we've got many other countries doing likewise. Hey, it works so well in Sri Lanka. Let's copy that. After all, let's just take everything down. Here we have BPRBusinessPolitics.com. Justin Trudeau proceeds with cap on fertilizer use despite risk of food shortages and bankruptcy to farmers. Then we have RT.com. Germans banned from using nitrate fertilizers and shift towards green farming. So we have this massive movement in that direction, and I've talked about it before, but here's the question. If you have all these countries moving in unison towards this anti-farming agenda, or AKA global governments or governments controlling the food supply, what are you left with? Well, think of the dictators. Mao, I think, is specifically, and many others controlled the food supply, and massive starvation hit the people. Stalin, I believe, as well, a massive starvation that hit, and hundreds of thousands, if not millions. I don't remember the exact number. Don't quote me on that, because government controls everything, and when the government is controlling things like food, it's never, ever a beautiful thing. But think about this. Canada closes down fertilizers or does bans on nitrates or whatever. Then we have the same thing in Sri Lanka. Then we have the same thing happening in Germany, do these fertilizer caps. Then we also have the same thing happening in America, where we're just going to limit it slowly. It's happening in the EU. It's happening in multiple countries. What have they done? They have dwindled our food supply, and population is going up. There's only one end result to that. If we don't have enough food now, what's going to happen in the future? The United Nations is already telling us millions of people are starving and are going to starve, especially in third world countries like Africa. What happens when they dwindle this in the name of saving the planet? Sounds like there could be a lot more people losing lives due to hunger. I wish, I'm livid. So what are they telling us to do now? They're saying, well, Marie Antoinette, eat cake. Or in our case, eat bugs. They're telling us in America, go eat your damn bugs. Take a look. And I've said this before, but I think it merits. When bugs crawl up the food chain. This is, by the way, New York Times advertising how great it is to eat bugs. That's not the only time they've talked about it. Here's one from, I believe it's 2018. New York Times. Why aren't we eating more insects? They're high in protein, low in cost, and eco-friendly. Eat bugs. You shut up, peasant, and you eat your damn bugs. Then we have Bill Gates. Oh, let them eat bugs. By the way, this little punk is the biggest landowner in America. Gee, Wally. New York Post. Bill Gates is reportedly the largest farmland owner in America. Yeah. So he's buying up all this land. And what is he pushing? What kind of things? How about lab-grown meat? No meat. He's saying get rid of it. Like, it's a delicatessen. It's only for us big people at the top who can afford it. Let's, buy up all this land, which he's doing. And he's saying, well, okay, well, now we got the land. Let's make them eat bugs, maybe more bug farms. And hey, maybe even while we're at it, lab-grown meat. Lab-grown meat and bug farms. Maybe that's what he intends to put on these farmlands, or put them out of business, to save the planet. You might have to take out a couple millions of people. By the way, what's really terrifying is in the Kissinger report, NSSM 200. This was written in 1974, right around the time of the United Nations and all these global organizations pushing this Green New Deal, Agenda 2030 style agenda. In this report, he literally entertains the idea, to put it lightly, of using food as a weapon, because our population is expanding and there's not enough food. Well, here we are in 2022, and they're dwindling our food supply on purpose. What's going on? Well, in that report, I'm going to throw it up on the screen here, and I'll leave a link as well. He entertains how they can use food as a weapon. And here it is. And this is about, I think, mid-side or towards the end of the report, but here it is. There is, however, another view, which is shared by a growing number of experts. It believes that the outlook is much harsher and far less tractable than commonly perceived. This holds that the severity of the population problem in this century, which is already claiming the lives of more than 10 people a year, is such as to make likely continued widespread food shortages and other demographic catastrophes. And in the words of C.P. Snow, we shall be watching people starve on TV. Really? 1974. Okay. The conclusion of this view is that mandatory programs, mandatory, by the way, may be needed. And we should be considering these possibilities right now when this was written. Imagine 2022. And here's what they entertain. Should the U.S. make an all-out commitment to major limitations of world population with all the financial and international as well as domestic political costs that would entail? What else? Should the U.S. set even higher agricultural production goals, which would enable it to provide additional major food resources to other countries? Should they be nationally or internationally controlled? On what basis? Here it is. Should such food resources then be provided? Would food be considered an instrument of national power? Let me read that again. Would food be considered an instrument of national power? Will we be forced to make choices as to whom we can assist? And if so, should population efforts be a criterion for such assistance? In other words, should we control the food supply? And how do we get to pick who gets it and who doesn't? He who controls the food controls it all. National power. That's what he's saying here. Is the U.S. prepared to accept food rationing? How about that? To help people who can or won't control their population growth. Your country's not doing the Green Deal? Kick you out. And keep in mind, we're doing it to ourselves. This isn't a natural occurring thing right now with our food supply. They're literally banning fertilizers and certain chemicals within the fertilizer and saying, hey, you can't use that, you can't do that, and we'll take it up. Our government can't even run appropriately with the departments it has, much less control our food supply. Go to hell. Should the U.S. seek to change its own food consumption patterns to make more efficient uses of protein? Cue the bugs, right? Are mandatory population control measures appropriate for the United States? Not my words. Those are the words of Kissinger, NSSM 200. Now, those are very terrifying in light of what's going on today. But hey, as our government says, and as Bill Gates says, let them eat bugs and lamb meat. What's going to be the solution when we don't have enough food because they closed down our farmers and forced our farmers out all over the globe? Either you starve or you eat the damn bugs. Really is not any way of looking at it. Very important report. Please share this with everybody you know. Again, get to Restricted Republic.